Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show. A shot of entertainment to the head. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Everett Lee Show podcast. I am the Everett Lee. I want to thank everyone who follows me on social media and right here on Podcast City Network's Twitch page, Podcast City Network on twitch.tv, and reviewing right now on the Everett Lee Show Facebook page. There's a couple of things I got to get off my chest. A couple things that I really need to get off because I don't want to sound too much like a loose cannon as I am, Everett Lee can be at times. So I want to address something right now to the viewers and listeners. Be sure to head out to City Limits Tap Room on March 7th for the Podcast City Network 2-year anniversary show with the hometown throwdown. 7 Kingdoms will be there on March 7th, Saturday, at City Limits Tap Room in DeLand, Florida. Podcast City Network will be there, and we will be covering and having some interviews and just having a good time. So be sure to head out to City Limits Tap Room and celebrate our 2-year anniversary and our hometown band, 7 Kingdoms. It's going to be a great time, ladies and gentlemen, a great time. And, of course, it's going to be a great time tonight here on this podcast. Returning to the podcast for his 3rd appearance on the Everett Lee Show. None other than the true master of wrestling ring music, Hurricane J.J Maguire. How you doing tonight, Mr. Maguire?
Hey, EL. I'm right here standing by talking to you, enjoying the wonderful Kentucky evening up here where tonight it's going down to about 30 degrees, but tomorrow it's going to be 50-something, and then it's going to snow the next day, so come on down. We've got it all.
Damn. I may have to pull out my vinyls there, JJ, like we were discussing before going live. I may have to pull out my vinyls. We were sitting there discussing about the vinyls that I picked up recently, and one of the ones we were talking about was Led Zeppelin, man. Just a good vinyl right there with some good songs. Just some great track listings on that album.
Classic. Yeah.
Classic. It is. It is. And you were telling me, and I mentioned it to you, that Stairway to Heaven is the most downloaded song ever from Led Zeppelin's catalog.
That's correct. And it's kind of like Sexy Boy being the most played entrance theme in wrestling history.
Yes, it is. It's Led Zeppelin 1, man. It just has some great songs on there. And Stairway to Heaven is the most downloaded song out of Led Zeppelin catalog. And the number 2 would have to be one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs. Would have to be Kashmir, man. Just Kashmir.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love it. Just the tone of that song and just the orchestra behind it, it brings that song out to life there.
Oh, definitely. It's a masterpiece. Everything they did to me is a masterpiece, and they really created a pathway for even groups like 7 Kingdoms that you guys work with some, whatever. They'll tell you Led Zeppelin's really got the stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're pretty influence. What is the word I'm looking for? Help me out here. Influential to young bands, especially you got that one band out there called Greta, I think it is, Van Greta, or Greta Van Zandt.
Greta Van Fleet. My son loves them. He brought the first album over, and we listened to it, and wow, they have a lot of 70s influence and Led Zeppelin-ish type riffs, and really good, really great. Really, I really liked it, and I thought it was good. But my son his age bracket. They're 16, 17 years old, and he turned me on to them, and I liked them. Then I saw them on, I believe, Saturday Night Live, and they really kicked it. It was really great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like them, but they stayed true to the more old school, original classic rock that you call now. But when it all came out, it was just hard rock, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unusual. It's unusual to see a young band like that have that influence nowadays. Yeah. Nowadays, I know back during the early '90s, 2000s, you had bands popping up that had that influence and stuff. There was one band I remember from the late '90s, early 2000s. They were called The Darkness. They had that old like '80s hard rock feel sound, and they were a great band. I think they were from Australia, around the same area as AC/DC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the classic stuff is really, it's a good something that the younger bands, you know, they acknowledge that there's elements of that they're using in what they do, but there's new things created, and you know, actually, the genre of rock music doesn't exist anymore. Technically, it's gone.
It is.
There's no category for that anymore, which is kind of mind-boggling to me, but. There's just a lot of influences, but no, I agree with you. That Led Zeppelin one, especially. This is how young that I am. I had an 8-track of Led Zeppelin one. Look out. a 69 Camaro Super Sport with an 8-track on the console.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Led Zeppelin one on 8-track tape. We had it made, I tell you. Everett, it was a good time. Yeah,
it is. It is. And tonight, besides the talking about your themes that you and Jimmy Hart threw together, and the last couple times I've had you on, we talked a lot about your life, starting out, growing up in Kentucky, and making it to where you're at now. But there is a lot of stories that people really didn't know about, or only close friends and family knew about the stories that we're going to be talking about tonight, because a lot of it's in your book that was released here just a few months ago, towards the end of 2019. I believe it was October or August of 2019. Your book was
released. It's late 2019. But I think November it was finally an official release. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, My Life in Heaventown. And in the book, you talk about starting out and making your way into the Gentrys, into WWE, and getting into that with Jimmy, creating great ring entrance music, and so forth. But what a lot of the stories that's in there is really, really good. And one of the things that I want to mention about is that last year, do you remember last year when you were down here in Daytona for the when we did the first year show for Podcasting Network? Remember you stayed with me?
Yes, sir. I remember it vividly, and it was great. Had a great time. Really did. Loved it all. Everything from the family element to the nightclub setting to Disney to you name it. We hit all the high spots once again.
We did. One of the things...
not to mention the WWE Performance Center. Yes, fans out there of wrestling. We did. We hooked right into the... but it took the Google map and 2 or 3 other applications and some secret government files to find the place.
It did. That is buried...
It really did. I'm not kidding. It did. Yeah, we know.
It's like buried like Area 51, man.
Yeah, but when we got there, everybody had already gone home except for one guy that was closing up. So I had an 8x10 picture of the wrestling boot band that we were carrying that I carry with me to give to people. And I was dressed up in my full regalia outfit because I'd been making a little performance earlier. So there we were, and we knock on the door, and the guy opens the door, and he's one of the trainers down there. His name is Sean. I can't remember his last name.
Right.
And he said, everybody's gone, but... I'm just turning all the lights off and leaving, but and I said, well, that's okay. We didn't notify the office or anything. We just thought we'd stop by, but here's a free signed 8x10 of the Wrestling Boot Band, And he stepped out and gave me a big brother hug, and Denver and I looked at each other like we're having a good time, and we got back in the car and talked about it. We're still talking about it.
Yeah,
Going to the Performance Center.
We are.
Yeah, yes, we are, ladies and gentlemen.
We went to, that's where we shot. I was your cameraman that day for filming the footage at Hogan's Beach Shop there.
Yeah, type in, the folks can time in, folks, I'm from Kentucky when I call the great people folks. But the people can type in Hurricane J.J. Hogan's Beach Shop promo, and you can see the fine camera work that Everett Lee did that day.
A lot of people don't know I did that, which is amazing.
Well, they're known now. We're going to tell everybody, and the royalties should start coming in anytime, Everett, for you.
They'll start rolling in there. That would be great. That'd definitely be great.
Yeah.
I could buy more diapers for my daughter.
Oh yeah, lifetime supply, no problem.
Yeah. That was a fun day. That was a fun day, and then going out to the 1 year show.
We just crash dove on everybody. We didn't let anybody know we were coming. The beach shop, Hulk didn't know I was coming because he was out of town. He and Jimmy were out of Florida. They were out in California doing another show. And so I just said, let's go up and just show up. So I dressed up in my Hurricane JJ wrestling outfit, managerial type look. I don't actually wrestle, but I do some managing around the outside of the ring, as well as music. And so I was dressed up, and you'll see in the video, Hurricane JJ Hogan's Beach Shop promo, and have a laugh on us. But it's really very informative. I'm in the Viper that Hulk just sold for charity, and he gave all the money to a great charity. And but I didn't know that he would ever sell that or what have you. But luckily, Everett and I were there. Everett did the camera work. We just jumped in there, and I jumped in the Viper in the showroom of the beach shop, and we did our thing. And so folks and ladies and gentlemen and great friends and fans, jump down there and take a look. You'll enjoy it, I promise you.
It was fun. It definitely was fun just doing that and hanging out that day. And we spent basically the whole day there, and we came back, and then we later on that week there we had the 1 year show, which was great. And then
that was fabulous, man.
Yeah, you performed. It
really was. It was awesome. Great. Well, you tell them what happened.
I know.
I'll let you tell them. Go ahead.
Well, Hurricane J.J. Maguire decided, and we had him come up on the stage there. He did a couple songs with the Craig Thompson Project, the reggae band that we had playing there that night. He performed. Great
band, by the way.
Yeah.
Really, these guys. Most reggae kind of sounds the same and similar, and you've heard it before and so on. Nope, not here. These guys, they take the reggae form and format and really ping pong that thing up to where it's more like on the edge of jazz almost, and rock too. I mean, they were fantastic, man. They inspired me so much. I had to play some drums with them. Just that was it. It was all they. I wasn't planning to do that because y'all had me, be featured in the show by myself with my tracks that I had playing behind me and everything. But wow, they were so great that I went, man, there's no way I'm leaving here without playing drums with this great band. The Craig Thompson Project. Yeah. Great.
Yeah,
Great, Craig. You hear me, Craig, if you're out there listening. Great.
just a great band. Just a great band. You got on there and played drums. I shot the sheriff. Tyler from Seven Kingdoms, he was running sound that night, and he comes over and he says, "There's the drummer coming back from the inside there, with something to drink, something to eat, taking 5." And it's like, Tyler looked at me and said, "Who's playing drums?" He looked up to me and said, "Is it JJ up there?" And everyone stood up and they leaned in and they said, "JJ's playing drums." And it was great. It was such a great time, great performance, and it was just fun. And then we finally, it was around that time when the Royal Rumble was happening, the 2019 Royal Rumble. And we went to Jimmy's place there when he was still here in Daytona. And Jimmy showed up. Jimmy showed up late because he was
Jimmy
out.
Hart.
Yep. The Mouth of the South.
Mouth of the South, everybody. Mouth of the South himself. His own club in Hall of Fame, man. Great. Yeah, we in Denver once again, mastering the lens technique.
Yep.
Yes, he did. And made us look like somebody. Thanks, Everett.
You're welcome, man. You're
Everett,
welcome. You know,
Everett D. Lee, that's you.
You know, I'm your cameraman whenever you need a cameraman, you know, almost like your wingman. I'd be your wingman if you needed a wingman.
You know, if WWE knew what you know, and well, they do, but if they knew that you know what you know, you would be up there right now, right on the front line of that whole industry of theirs, because you yourself, I was so impressed when I first met you of how ultra knowledgeable you are about the facts, especially behind wrestling, professional wrestling from way, way back and so on. You know, you're like a walking encyclopedia of events and matches and talent. And wow, WWE could really use an announcer or a show, you know, just a show with a person like you, you know, to answer all those hardcore fan questions that you've got to know your stuff to know all that, you know, and you're the man, you know it. If I need to know what year, what WrestleMania had whoever, I just called Everett Lee. Everett Lee instantly tells me what I want to know.
Yeah, I pretty much I pay attention
to
little details and stuff, the details and stuff that no one really does, but I'm just, that's just how I am and just how I handle myself. And speaking of wrestling, I pulled up on the network. I was showing you WWE Network because you weren't too aware of the WWE Network, of what stuff was on there. And I showed you. I said, hey, look, they got some Mid-South wrestling. You said, okay. So we threw on some Mid-South wrestling and we watched Coco Beware. It was before he was in WWE, and then Lanny Poffo before he was the Genius, and they had some great matches. Junkyard Dog, we seen him in there, and just it was great. We're sitting there watching the stuff, and it was really, really great. But I enjoyed going up there and seeing you and Jimmy Hart interact. That was the highlight of my night right there after the Royal Rumble, because Jimmy didn't know you were staying with me, and right when everything was over, he's like, "Okay, baby, thanks for coming," and he shook my hand, he walked off, and I was standing there and I look, and I'm like, he probably doesn't know I'm not leaving. I drove you here.
Yeah, no, he didn't know. He didn't know. No.
Yeah.
It was great. That was fun crash diving in there too. And we did a little promo also, which is online. You can see also. It's Hurricane J.J. promo at Jimmy Hart's bar. I think it's what it is. Something like that.
Yeah, Jimmy Hart's Hall of Fame Bar and Grill. I think that's what it is.
Hall of Fame Bar and Grill. Hurricane J.J. Jimmy Hart Hall of Fame Bar and Grill. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is a mouthful.
Yeah, Jimmy and I did a little interview, and you did the camera work again. Everett Lee was right on the lens once again, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I was.
We didn't cell phone it, by the way. We went a step beyond cell phone video. Not that it's not really up there pretty great right now, but the camera, I had a really decent high-definition MP4 camera,
right.
And we shot it in real high res, and looks real good. But thanks a lot. You really did a great job on that, by the way.
Oh, why? Thank you. Of course, I'm always your cameraman. If I'm around and you had a camera, you say, Everett, hold this. There I am. I'm holding that camera, and you direct me, tell me where I need to go.
Well, we might make a movie one day with some of the wrestlers that we know, like Jimmy and different people, and Honky, and put something together one day. You never know what might happen, and
yeah,
it might be something we'll do. You never know. But no, that was a lot of fun. And I think you have those videos on file, don't you?
I believe so. Because it's getting to the point.
If you want to post those, go post those on your Podcast City Network site. It's okay with us. We'll send you a bill later.
That's great. That's great. Send me a bill.
Yeah.
Well,
I got Bob Hope to laugh one time, so I must. And Jimmy Hart laugh at me all the time. His wife always said, "Maguire, Jimmy doesn't laugh at hardly anything, but he cracks up when you tell those stories." I said, "Well, I can't help it. I'm just telling the truth, and only happens to me. Could only happen." But yeah, we had some great ribs and laughs and on the road and stuff.
Yeah, that's
WWF and E. Yeah.
That's one of the things, because after the Royal Rumble, we went down the road. You, me, and Jimmy. We went to the Waffle House and we ate. And one of the things you said was when you were in Jimmy were on the road back during the Gentrys, back during that time with the Gentrys, you traveled, and about the only place that was open was a Waffle House. Could you share some stories being on the road with the Gentrys, you and Jimmy Hart, and going town to town, and the thing about the Waffle House?
Yeah, well, after we got ptomaine poisoned about 7 times at the Waffle House in different states and places along the interstate, we got smart and switched over and stayed in towns where they had a Morrison's cafeteria or a cafeteria-style place.
Uh-huh.
And that's what Jimmy and I went. I mean, we sat in there with octogenarians. Here we were, and I was in my 20s, and Jimmy was in his early 30s and whatever. And there we are, and we're sitting amongst 85-year-old, 90-year-old people, and the Silverbirds and so on. And here's a couple of young rock and roll guys, in the Gentrys hit group, the Gentrys coming in and eating at Morrison's with them. But let me tell you, Jimmy was wise, because the food was great, and we never got poisoned at those cafeterias. But those Waffle Houses, you got to look out. If you order tuna fish or mayonnaise that sat out overnight and they're throwing it on sandwiches, buddy, you're going to get the axe. It's going to get you. And Jimmy wound up with hepatitis. We ate at one of them.
Damn.
And he about died. He came down with hepatitis and had to go. He made it back to Memphis, and they put him in the hospital, and he almost passed away. He was losing consciousness, and he had a reaction to one of the drugs they were giving him to fight the hepatitis. And,
right.
Almost killed him. He said he saw his deceased grandmother and uncle and people were all around his bed and looking at him.
Damn.
He was on the verge of death. Jimmy Hart was right there, and he pulled through on that. But no, I've eaten at the Waffle Houses since then some, but I'm a little leery of eating at them, because we in those days we hit them all the time. But like I said, Jimmy and I wound up going to the Morrison's cafeterias. I don't know if they have them anymore,
right?
But they were really great. They had everything you want.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the Waffle Houses, I believe when me and my wife and my nephew and his friend back around 2017, we went to Fort Lauderdale. We went to an ROH Ring of Honor show, and from here to Fort Lauderdale, it was just almost about maybe two hours. And what we did was we went down there and went to the ROH show. After it was over, we turned around, and when we were coming back to Daytona, we got hungry. So we stopped off the interstate there, and we stopped at a Waffle House. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. We're sitting there in the middle of a Waffle House. It's just us and probably 2 other people. I'm probably thinking just the people there serving food, and we were just eating. I don't even know what we were eating though, but I think I was eating just some waffles and eggs and some toast and bacon and stuff. And
eggs, look out!
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the food's all right. I mean the food's great, but it's it's nothing to get too crazy to go crazy over as I always.
If you're careful, of course you can get food poisoning anywhere, even in your own home, but you just have to be careful what you're ordering. One time, Bob Evans, I ate outside Disney World, coming back to Kentucky from going down on vacation. Just drove down and ate at a Bob Evans, which I always liked and still do. But I ate a turkey club sandwich, and that turkey had turned, and you couldn't tell. And I ate all that, and buddy, I was sick for a week. It really hit me hard, and I was bedridden.
Jeez.
And dehydrated and everything. But, that can happen anywhere. But just be careful what you order out there, on the road. That's all I'm saying. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like we got Dark Suede. Dark Suede says he's on the cover of your book.
Yeah, he is. He's in the corner with his head kind of down a little bit. The only way you can tell it's really he is by his outfit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is he. It is he. It is the Dark Suede. It is he. Yes, it is.
Haha. Nice. That's cool. That's
yeah.
cool. Little tidbit I didn't know there, and thanks for jumping in here tonight and watching the Everett Lee show here, Dark Suede. That's pretty neat.
Yeah,
that's pretty neat. He's
and he's a good wrestler too. By the way, he's a mean guy. Now he's evil, and if you thought Jimmy Hart was sneaky, Dark Suede owns the book on sneaky. So but he is skillful. I'll give him credit where credit's due. He's skillful, and I would love to see one day if he drank some sort of special potion or something, and all of a sudden, poof, he turned into a good guy. I would be really amazed to see what kind of good guy he could be, if he had a magic potion, but I doubt if that'll ever happen.
Well, he says he misses you, JJ.
Well, I miss him too, and he's still working shows though. He does a multitude of shows. He's not with one identical complete company. He identifies with a couple of different companies, and up north he wrestles and takes his meanness up north, and he works down in this area some too, and I believe he's been down in Tennessee some with a couple of different organizations. So. Yeah, he gets around, but he's had some belts too, and he's a tough customer in the ring now.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen him, you'll know that. And but he's done a lot of good, even with being mean and everything and sneaky. He's done a lot of good. He's helped raise money for charity, and when we worked with a couple of different companies up here, KZW and whatever. And he's helped and taken his meanness, but channeled that into something good and helped make money for charity. That we gave charity at every show.
Yeah.
And he was at most of the shows that I was at, that I worked in. He was really part of taking his meanness, but channeled that, draw those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, Suede's a good one. He's a bad one, but he's a bad good one.
Yeah. That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah,
I definitely like that. But yeah, man, just traveling up and down the road with the Gentrys and just doing city by city and like hitting the overnight diners and stuff. Now, is there anything that ever happened when you traveled in the Gentrys? When you guys traveled, did you all get in the car and then put all the instruments in the back and you just hit the road, or how did that go?
Well, we had a mid-70s Vista Cruiser station wagon that we all rode in, and then we pulled a trailer behind that with all our gear and PA system and everything and lights and so on.
Okay.
So, and we all rode in the station wagon, and then we kept their guitars, and the delicate stuff was in the very back of the station wagon, but then the station wagon was pulling a pretty good size dual tandem trailer. That means 2 wheels on each side, dual tandem. And, it had its own braking system and everything. It's a big outfit, but we hauled all our stage stuff and amplifiers and keyboards and drums and everything all in that trailer. So we're all self-contained. There we are traveling together. And I only remember flying to maybe 2 dates out of, maybe 80 dates. And maybe out of 80 dates that we played, we only flew 2 times because everything was drivable, and plus it was difficult to haul all that equipment on a plane. You can't, it's very expensive, especially at that time. And, it just wasn't practical. It was more practical to drive. And of course, the group Three Dog Night, that's the way they did it, just like we did. They had a station wagon and pulled a trailer, and they had a #1 record, and they still traveled like that about through the whole career. They just, pulled the trailer.
Yeah, they pretty much that's what you did. You had the trailer, and you just took the car, and you just hit the
highway, baby.
Yeah, you in the open road, man. How did that feel? Just seeing places you never been
Great.
before.
Oh, it's scenic. And of course, with the Vista Cruiser, the people sitting in the back seat behind the front seat, you can look up and see the sky and everything through there. It's got like a windowish thing there all the way across.
Okay.
Really nice. Yeah, really neat. So you could look up and see stuff, and you could look all around yourself. And then what was real cool is they pulled the jump seat in the back up, and it faced backwards, So
right.
You're looking at the trailer. And
Nice.
we'd flip a coin to see who's going to sit in the jump seat back there, and 2 of us would sit back there.
Wow.
But now we broke down, pulling all that garb. We broke down right outside Mobile, Alabama one time. I forget where we were heading. We weren't going to Mobile, but you had to go through there on the interstate to get to where we were going. Maybe we might have been going to actually Florida, I think.
Uh-huh.
So we got to outside Mobile, Alabama, and the transmission broke about 8-10 miles outside of Mobile, Alabama.
Damn.
And we broke down, and it was rough. It was raining, the weather was bad, and wind whipping them, 80 mile an hour and so on. But anyway, we were real lucky. Some guy driving by recognized us from playing another gig in another city or something, and he was driving a tow truck for a company.
Wow.
And so he pulled over and backed up and hooked us up and pulled us into the we unhooked the trailer, and he pulled the station wagon. Yeah. And then he called in on the radio and had another guy come out and pull in the trailer for us.
Oh, damn.
I mean, yeah, but our bass player, Russ Riddle, he got disgusted with everything, and he jumped out and thumbed to Mobile. And he wound up at the same hotel that we did. Uh-huh. He was sitting in the lobby when we walked in. But I mean, it's just like a movie, like The Monkees or something,
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun. But I remember Mobile smelled like rotten eggs. That sulfur smell in the air. Oh Lord, that really murders me, man. I hate that.
Oh man,
terrible. I mean, you can't get rid of that.
I can only imagine.
Like rotten eggs now.
I can only imagine, because I took a trip one time. My uncle passed away in, I think it was 2017. It was around July, right before 4th of July. He passed away. We took a trip from here in Daytona. We got up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, I believe it was. It was about 4. Got up 4 o'clock in the morning, hit the road by at least 5 o'clock, and we were driving up to Georgia, about where he lived, in the middle of Georgia. And we took a detour, or we were following the GPS on Google Maps on where to go. And so we took a shortcut, and it got us over to where we had to go, where it was just a straight shot up to the service for the funeral. And we went through Cartersville. We went through Cartersville, Georgia, and when we went through Cartersville, when we entered city limits, it says Cartersville city limits, or I kid you not, it smelled like peanuts. You could smell peanuts, JJ. You could smell the peanuts.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We've traveled all over the United States, and we've got all the smells, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had the peanuts, we've had the sulfur, we've had the the cow, on the ground stuff, and everything. You can't drive through Texas without that smell.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went through Cartersville, and you could smell the peanut factories, man. You could smell that stuff, which was neat because we were like, you smell those peanuts.
Yeah, you can't escape it. I mean, the only way to get away from it is you'd have to pull in the Army surplus and buy a gas mask.
Right, right. So it made.
Yeah, then you look like a bunch of Nazis driving down the highway, and they gun you down.
That would be the worst thing happening, man.
Yeah. Our vacation, how it went wrong. We stopped and bought. We didn't like the peanut smell, so we stopped and bought gas masks, and then the cops pulled us over because we looked like Nazis on a mission.
Damn. But that was interesting because it was my wife, my daughter. I think she was a year old at the time, and my nephew came with us.
Yeah.
And we drove up there, and we went up there, and we went to the service, paid our respects and everything. Now we get there. I'm in shorts. I'm in regular shirt. I got my nice dress shirt, and I said to my wife right before we left, I said, grab my khakis. She said, which ones? I said, grab the ones that, and they're distinguished. I said, I hate to say this on air, but on a pair of khakis I got, I rarely wear them anymore because of this. I said, there's a little hole in the crotch there, a tiny hole. Grab those. I said, do not grab the ones with the tags on them still. They don't fit. Okay. We get there. We get into the funeral parlor, and for the service and stuff. I go in the bathroom. So my wife hands me all the clothes. I go in there, and I start changing and everything. I put the pants on. As soon as I start to put the pants on, they cannot button. I looked down, and I said, son of a bitch. She grabbed the wrong pants. So I wore the shorts that I wore all the way up there with a nice button-up shirt and my tennis shoes. And
well, that's okay.
Yeah, it was okay, but
you were there. You were there. The main thing is you were there.
Yeah,
that's
I was there. People were looking at me. And my family looked at me. They're my cousins. They're looking at me, and they looked down and look up at me. I said, pants didn't fit. And they kind of laughed, and they said, well, we're glad you're here. So when we sat down, you couldn't tell, not unless I got up. But afterwards, paid my respects to my uncle. We got back in the car, and we drove back to Daytona. We got back at Daytona at midnight. So we drove up there and back within a few hours. So that was something right there. But yeah, I told her. I came out not wearing the pants, and Amanda said to me, she said, how come you're not wearing the pants? I said, you grabbed the wrong pants. Oh, they won't fit? I said, no, they won't fit. My nephew's laughing. He's like, look at you. And I said, shut up.
Horror beyond horrors. Those kind of things are just a horror beyond horrors. I know. I just had, when you were talking there for a moment, something flashed in my mind. I remember, speaking of a road trip, one time the Hebners, Earl and Dave, the greatest referees that's ever lived, I guess, in my generation. There might be, there's some great referees. Joey Morello was great also, and we could go on all night about some great refs and all that. But the audience, most of them, they don't realize that ultimately how important the referee is in every sport, in wrestling or football or whatever. But anyway, the story. So that Jimmy Hart and the Hebners and myself, I was the wheel man, and we were going up to West Virginia, right? So we get up into, I can't remember the town up there, but it was really, you talk about hillbilly and beat down, and it's a railroad town. Railroad tracks went through the middle of the town in about 7 places, okay?
Uh-huh.
So, coal town, And so anyway, we got a show up there. I guess it was Huntington, up in Huntington. Hope nobody listening's up in Huntington. But it's a nice town. The people were super nice. But the town's wasn't much up there at that time. By now, 20-something years later, it might be a big boom town now. I don't know. I haven't been back since then.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's the Hebners and Jimmy Hart and me, and we're up there. So we get there's a Holiday Inn out there, not too far from the Coliseum where we're doing the show, the WWF. And we get out there, and all right, so we stay in the room, whatever. We decide we like to stay in the same room because we save money and we have a lot of laughs and ribs and, the old gimmick buddy thing, like camping out, having laughs and fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so they had stayed there before, Jimmy and the Hebners, and we had 2 rollaway cots and 2 king size beds, and Jimmy made me, this is what a nice guy Jimmy Hart is. He made me sleep on the actual king size bed. I mean, I was happy to be on a rollaway cot, just to be there and be a part of the action,
Yeah.
and have fun. And okay, so he insisted. He wouldn't let me. My feet were hanging over the rollaway cot. Wasn't long enough because I was 6'4".
Right.
And so he said, "You get on that bed right now, Maguire, and you take the bed." He said, He says, "I can fit on this fine. You know me, I can sleep in a chair or standing up or anything, and Jimmy Hart can't. He can sleep anywhere at any moment. Like poof, he's asleep." So yeah, he hit the rollaway, and he was immediately asleep.
Wow.
And then it was really kind of him to give me the king size bed. And then the Hebners, they're short, so they slept on. Dave, I think, slept in the bed, and Earl slept on the rollaway. So Jimmy Hart and Earl were on the rollaways, and me and Dave were up on the separate king size beds. So here we are. It's like the Four Stooges, ladies and gentlemen. So, but they had stayed there before, and they knew something I didn't. So the next morning, they got up extra early and showered and got out of there quickly.
Uh-huh.
Well, they were riding from there on up north to do another show with, they were on a bus that they had rented.
Right.
So, for everybody. So I wonder why they get up so early, man. I mean, they could have slept longer, even though on their schedule.
Uh-huh.
Okay, here's why. Because the darn end of the building down there, it floods. When you take the shower in there, it overflows and comes out under the wall somehow in the drain thing and literally floods the whole room. You're walking on water.
Jeez.
And I jumped out of the bed and I splashed. Yeah. And I was cussing to beat the devil, and I said, "Those Hebners, I'm going to get them." They knew this happens because they were kind of laughing, going, I kind of knew something was up, but I didn't know what. But they got me on that one. That was a great rib. I mean, it was horrible. And I remember then tromping through that water and then taking a shower and hiking it up more. Honestly, there was an inch of water on the floor.
Oh, man.
You could swim almost.
Damn.
And so I threw down stuff, and I jumped over the beds and used them to walk on rather than walking on that water. But I says, "All right, you guys," I said, "thanks a lot. Yeah, we told you to sleep in and enjoy yourself, and you did, didn't you?" And I went, "Yeah, I did. I went swimming." I did. They said, "Yeah, we knew that room down there. We'd stayed there before, and we knew that problem was there." So
Jeez.
they got me on that one. Yes, sir.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was wild.
Wow.
And then Randy Savage, he was at that gig with us, and then he was going back to Lexington, Kentucky to see his mom and dad.
Right.
And so Randy rode back down. He and I rode down in my 1993 police package Camaro.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
B4C. Yeah. I had a 93 B-Boy 4C. They say, "What's that B4C stand for, man?" Before court. Yep. That's what it stands for.
Wow.
And I had the cops actually pull me over a couple of times just to look at the car. I wasn't speeding or nothing wrong. I had my seatbelt on and the whole
Right.
thing. they knew that was a B4C, and they pulled it over, and they just wanted to look at it.
Just to look at the car, just to see the car.
Yeah, just to look. I said, is there a problem? No, but we were noticing that you're driving a police package. And I said, that's right, one of 134 in the whole world. Pardon me. And here, by the way, come back here, fellas. And I opened up the hatch on the back, and I pulled out a placard where I'd just been in a car show and won a trophy for best car, best new car of car show. Mm-hmm. And I said, and on the thing I had written, Corvette V8, special, all the special things about it. The alternator was heavier duty and so on, and, it was hyped up and so forth, and the different points of why it was better than a regular factory car, equipped with the police package stuff. Yeah. And it said, I had on there, chase the bad guys and have fun too. They love that. Chase the bad guys with it and have fun too while you're chasing them. They said, that's great. They said, man, oh man, thank you a lot. We appreciate it. But I didn't have my license with me. I'd left it at home, and my ex-wife and I had gone to Lexington to see a movie from 100 miles from, or 80 miles from Somerset. Right. And we're on the way back, and so they pulled me over. And I thought, well, I haven't done it. I've been on speed limit and everything. And anyway, they wanted to look at the car. And so they were happy. They got to look at it and check it all out. But they said, we were hoping that we might get one. But I said, well, the only ones in Kentucky, the DARE program in Lexington ordered 3, but they only had the money for 2. And when they came in, and a friend of mine that's the salesman there used to play in the Sounds Unlimited with me in my first professional band when I was a teenager in Somerset. He was a salesman there, and he called me and said, J.J., I've got a car, man. You got to get up here. If you want a new car, this is it. This is it. And I went, okay. So I drove up there about 90 miles an hour and bought the car. Yeah. Oh, and, nice. It was a lot of fun. I had some great fun with that car. But Randy Savage picked him up, and when we were coming, they let me pull down in the bottom of the Coliseum. And so Randy got in, but he hunkered down in the back seat. He hunkered way down so that when I came shooting out of there up the incline, that the fans, standing around and everything, wouldn't see anybody in the car, sitting there. Oh, yeah, yeah. And so I sneaked Randy Savage out of the Coliseum. Jimmy's in front seat, and then Randy was hunched down in the back. Okay. How was it? How was it riding going down the highway and having Randy Savage ride with you? How was that? It was great, man. He's really super intellectual person, and it's just his voice was unique, and he sounded pretty much like a macho man character. In real life, that's the way he really kind of talked too. Yeah. Except he put more volume under it, in the character and whatever. But he was really a really great person, and I'm just so grateful that I got to spend time with him and get to know him real good. And he really liked me a whole lot. And Randy didn't like too many people. He was his own piper. He danced to his own tune and everything. He was a one-man show, so to speak. And he wasn't easy to work with, in the events. And he had a temper that was unbelievable, but he was just the greatest thing in the world to me. I mean, we had great conversations about everything, and I'm so thankful that I got to know Randy Savage, Macho Man. He was really a great person, and if people knew how brilliant that he was, it would scare you. I mean, this guy was he was the genius in reality. Yeah, he really was. He really was. You said you sat in at a couple times for his promos that he did, and you said some of the guys didn't like to be before Randy because Randy was so particular on getting the promo just right. How was the experience on that? Just watching him work and do the promos that he did. He's instant magic. He just, as soon as it's time to go and do what he's doing there, it was a continual stream, like streaming music or streaming video, okay? Well, Randy Savage was streaming Randy Savage. See? and it didn't stop. It didn't, if you notice, and there's never a 17-minute break like, let me tell you something, brothers, and he'll rant for a while like Hulk. He'll start out like that, but then he'll occasionally stop and look around at the ceiling and get his thoughts together and then hit you from another side, angle. Randy, he never did too much of that. When he just would plow through a promo. I mean, bam, bam, one continual stream,
Right.
And he was very particular, like he said, as soon as it was over, he would say, did I give you everything that you needed, brother? Are you sure I gave you everything you needed? And he was real super serious about, his promos, and really more than a lot of the other guys, Hulk was more, his promos were great too in those days as well, but Hulk was more somewhat controlled, but Randy was just like winding up a toy car and then cutting it loose,
Right.
Hulk had moments of that in his promos where he would do that technique, but Randy did it just all the way through. He didn't ever hesitate, really,
Right. He just hit it and stuff. The thing I liked about Randy Savage growing up, watching him on TV, was the fact when Mean Gene or someone would interview him and him just hitting the over the top promos that brought you in, and you knew that whoever he was cutting that promo on, that he was going to get in the ring and he was going to throw down. He was going to drop that big elbow on him, and the promos came across just larger than life. Because I knew I was watching the Ultimate Warriors DVD about and he was talking about Randy Savage, and he said Randy told him, he said, you got to be out there and over the top. That's how you get with being cutting a promo, and that's how he was, because it always dragged me in, because I didn't know what this guy was going to say and what he was going to do and how he was going to deliver that line there, but I knew it was going to be something, because it was going to get my attention no matter what. If I was in the other room and I had the TV on and I heard him on TV, I would drop what I was doing and I would come just to see what he would do and say.
Of course. I mean, the first time I saw Randy Savage was on television from Knoxville, Tennessee. On Saturday morning, they had the, local wrestling or whatever down there in that territory. I can't remember exactly. I guess was that NWA down there, or what was that? Better than me.
I think it was I think it was like the NWA or it was the IWA, if I remember.
Yeah, it's either IWA or NWA, but I remember the first time that I saw Randy Savage come out, I thought, this is unbelievable, for real. I mean, I'd never seen a wrestler that ramped and jacked up in my whole life. I mean, there are a lot of good wrestlers, don't get me wrong, some great technical wrestlers and so on, but this guy here was a maniac.
Yeah.
he was everywhere, and then that voice of his and everything, wow, man. I mean, I was blown away the first time I ever saw him on television. And then, eventually getting to know him and everything was just like a dream come true, really, because he was a really unique individual. Randy Savage was. Randy Poffo.
Yeah.
One of the greatest of all time. He's right up there with Hulk Hogan and Andre. I look up there and I see at the pinnacle, I see Andre and Hulk and Randy Savage, and then you go from there.
Yeah.
Ric Flair. Yeah, Ric Flair's up there on that tier. And,
your Mount Rushmore.
The Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Yes, sir. I love that. Coin that.
Yeah.
Trademark it.
Well, pretty much.
Make Vince buy that from you. Hurry up and do it. Hurry up and trademark it before Vince does.
I should. A lot of people put that out there.
He may already have it. He probably already got it.
He probably don't even know it, because he's spending a lot of time.
He's ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
He's it. I mean, when you say wrestling, modern wrestling, or wrestling that any of us have a memory of, that's the Vince McMahon He's a very person that gave a lot of talent great opportunity. You know, all those guys, including Hogan and Savage and Jimmy Hart and all those guys, they would still just be running around down around Memphis and being big stars down there.
Yeah.
But Vince McMahon and that organization took some great talents and really allowed them to show their stuff to the world. And that was lucky for everybody. Lucky for me. Lucky for Jimmy Hart, Hulk Hogan, Hillbilly Jim. I could sit here all night, you know.
Right. Right.
But yeah. But the times change, and you know, you never know what the public really likes. You know, you might sit there and as knowledgeable as you are about wrestling and the technical facts and everything, you might sit there and go, "That's the world's worst wrestler I've ever seen." But you know what? Then there's 10,000 other people that go, "That's the greatest wrestling I've ever seen." you know, and you never know what the public will like. And I think part of the troubles that all the wrestling factions today, WWE and Impact and AEW and all of them have is, I hate to say this, but in a way they're trying too hard or something.
Right.
The old school guys down in the Mid-South and NWA and whatever, they focus more on character and presentation, and the wrestlers today all look very similar. They're not very colorful as a whole, you know. I mean, just because you wear red tights and have a you know, colorful headband on or something, that doesn't exactly mean that you're really colorful. You know, the color is not important today. You know, the wrestlers look more like the people in the audience.
Yeah, pretty. No one sticks out. No one actually sticks out.
Well,
like
they don't want them to. They don't want anybody to. They don't want to have one person that's commanding the sales of the company. Yeah. When you had Hulk Hogan, you had the whole company riding on Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And Hulk Hogan carried that load, brother. He carried the load, you know, and helped to build that big house that these guys with beards and tattoos are in today.
Exactly.
Now we've got some great bearded and tattooed wrestlers. Don't misunderstand my point of view.
Right.
But the color is not important. They don't seem to think, but I seem to still think that, you notice when I performed down there, no matter where we went, I had color.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes you stand out to where people remember a little more, I think, about you.
Yeah.
But the thing is everybody got so colorful in the WWF that it turned into one big color burst, you know, so
right.
They got away from that. And
especially
but
with
there's
the
some great wrestling today. There is all the leagues. I haven't seen Billy Corgan's bunch yet. I've looked at everything else, but I like what I see. I get a lot of flack for liking Tessa Blanchard. I love Tessa's abilities, and the thing that she has over all other wrestlers is this. She's had extensive acting training. You know, she majored in theater in college and everything.
Right.
And you watch her do her matches, and she tells the story not only with her wrestling, but you can skip the wrestling and just watch her face, and her face tells the story.
Right, right.
And that's tough. That is an art and a skill that not everybody has.
Right, right.
Even with training, you know, it's something that's a gift. And, you know, it's like, I guess, like being able to play music like myself, you know, it's a gift. It's just a gift, you know. I think it's a gift from God, of course, but some people don't believe in God and don't think so, and I don't hate them because they don't, but I happen to, and it's a gift. Let's just say it's a gift from whomever. And it's important in life, I think, always to try to figure out what is your gift. And once you figure what your gift is, and you can work with it, but you have to work with it. You have, like going to the gym to build muscles. Whatever your gift is, if it's talking, then you need to be a salesman or a lawyer or whatever. You know, find out first, what's my gift? And everybody has a gift. A lot of people are beat back and beat down. People tell them, you're never going to do anything, and you don't have any gift, and you better settle down and just do this and that.
Right.
But if you have a gift and a dream, you see, you need a gift, and if you have a gift and then you have a dream, and then you live your gift and dream, then you'll be completely successful.
Exactly. I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you much more than that right there. Now, one of the things about you're talking about Tessa Blanchard with her look and her face can tell the story. One of my other favorite wrestlers. I'm going to get it out here sometime tonight. One of my other favorite wrestlers, The Undertaker. The guy does not say much. When he does say something,
there you go.
And it's
perfect example. Perfect example.
Perfect
wow,
example.
That's why you're who you are, Everett Lee, because you're exactly right, and you see that. And I'm telling you, WWE needs you, brother.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to send them a letter up there and get them going.
Why, thank you. I would appreciate that. I would, but
you could help them. You could help them immensely. They need people like yourself.
Yeah.
No training necessary. You're already trained.
I'm self-trained. I'm self-taught.
Self-trained, best. OJT, on the job training, baby. That's how it is.
But with The Undertaker, perfect example. Okay, perfect example, Undertaker. I believe it was WrestleMania 27. I believe it was WrestleMania 27. Undertaker comes back and he gets in the ring. I think it was around 20. No, it was around. It was around 20. No, 28, 27. I forget which one, but because I know 29 was okay. It was 28. Undertaker came out and he was going to, I guess, kind of announced or mention or cut a promo on who he was going to face. And then Triple H's music hits. Triple H was gone for months because he actually he blew out his other quad. Remember when he blew out the first time? He was out for like 6 to 8 months, and and he blew out the other one finally, and he was gone for a long time. And then he comes back on the night that Undertaker comes back, and they're in the ring there. And just the emotion in that ring and just watching their faces and just watching the Undertaker's face told everything. And when he looked up at the WrestleMania sign and just looked, and he looked at Triple H, and Triple H looked back and forth, they said nothing. The crowd went nuts. And then,
of course.
And then Taker looked at him, and with the face, he did the eyes roll back and the cut throat, and then that was all was said and done. And then they had their match for WrestleMania 28 there, but that was the thing about it. His face told the story. He didn't have to say a damn word. He went out there in the crowd, hook, line, sinker, boom, sold. I'm going to buy a ticket to see this.
Yes, definitely. And what about Hulk? And he'd look at the crowd and look back over, and then I mean,
oh yeah,
that's what people like. They like the connection, and the great ones were able to make that connection, with the audience and everything. And it's just it's skill, but you have to work at it and learn how to do it and practice. And like anything else, it's not it just looks like these guys and these people and girls just walk out there and do their thing, and it's fabulous. But buddy, if the people knew how much work went in before you saw them walk out there, it'd blow your mind.
Oh yeah.
At the gym all the time, the gym every day, lifting weights in the morning and the evening, and staying on a rigid diet, and traveling, and and honing your craft more and more, and working out more and more in the ring, and getting advice from seasoned veterans, and and getting ready for these big matches, and it's just a lot of extra hard, diligent work. There's no cakewalk to wrestling, really. No cakewalk whatsoever, period. No matter what level you're at, if you're a beginner, or if you're an intermediate, or if you're a semi-pro, or you're a pro. It's grueling. Exactly. And you have to love it. And that's just that sort of thing. And those guys that made it the biggest, they lived it. Mm-hmm. They not only loved it, but they lived it.
They did. They did. You can tell. I mean, you definitely can tell they lived it and they loved it. And
yes, they did. Well, I traveled with them on the road and everything, and I saw what it takes and what they do. And, you know, I could tell you everything that Hulk ate every day and how he kept in shape like that. And I can tell you what routines he worked out on in the gym and how he went about it. And, you know, I was down there with him, Jimmy and I. He drugged us to the gym every morning at like 5:30 a.m. And, but it's a regimen, and it's real hard work for anyone. And, you know, I really have hats off to all those guys, the Hulk and the Rock and everybody that,
yes,
you know, work so hard like that to really entertain you and me and the people. You know, I always tell people, they say, well, you must have a pretty big ego for writing all those icon entrance themes. I said, no, I don't have any ego about that. I said, I wrote all those songs for the world's ego.
Yeah.
And I really did. And it just happened to turn out that I got a little bit of attention for doing it, but I didn't go into it. And I never thought that it would be as big as it has become and what it became. You know, I'm still amazed and shocked by that this many years later that people still recognize the works that we did and they appreciate it. And they come up to me at the meet and greets and, you know, and tell me how much that the wrestling music was the fabric of their youth or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I mean, that's heavy stuff. I'm not claiming to be Einstein or somebody, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out gravity, but I did figure out what people like, and I knew how to put that together. And Jimmy, too, we knew how to put all that together in such a way that the masses of ages of people would enjoy that, you know, along with the wrestling character. It was all about the character, but then we had a little icing on the cake with the music, you know, and we were just lucky and fortunate, but we worked hard, and we were diligent at that, too. And, you know, I've played music every day of my life since I can remember being alive.
Right.
Since a baby. You know, I played the piano, and, you know, music's just the fabric of my life. So I was honored, and I'm flattered and fortunate that so many people had joy from this music, because that's why I did it. I didn't do it to get girls. I didn't do it. I did it to get kind of rich. But that wasn't my motive. I didn't, you know, just being a part of it. If I never made $1, I would have still been happy, you know, with.
Yeah, you just enjoyed what you were doing. And if you got something,
I loved it. I just loved music my whole life. It's been, you know, some people love football their whole life, and some people love other stuff, but some people love the Three Stooges their whole life, and I'm one of those. But
I am too.
am
too. My father.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned that, my father, man, we would watch Three Stooges. We'd sit there on AMC at 7:00 at night or 6:00 at night. Would rerun Three Stooges. They were rerunning it there for a while, and we would sit there and watch it and just laugh our butts off, because I love that slapstick comedy. That slapstick comedy.
Oh yeah, it's just simple
comedy.
Stuff. Simple stuff, you know, very simple, and nothing beyond belief or anything. Just slapstick comedy is what it is, and they were masters of it. And the Three Stooges. I never missed it when I was a little kid. You know, it came on Saturday mornings, and, you know, I never missed. I started out, the first show at 6 a.m. was Roy Rogers. The second show was Gene Autry. The third show was that there, and then the fourth show was wrestling.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Channel 10 down in Knoxville, pardon me.
Knoxville.
Yeah, and I get cereal together. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. Come on. And I'd have my cereal, and I'd eat my cereal and sit there and watch wrestling go by. And my mother used to say, "Why do you want to waste your time on that old wrestling? You know, this is good."
Yeah, of course.
And so I said, "Well, I just like it." She said, "Well, that's all a bunch of goofy stuff, that running around and slapping each other, and it doesn't make any sense," she says. And I said, "Well, yes, it's true too. Yeah. But it's something fun to watch. It's fun to watch."
Yeah, it's fun. Mom, it's entertainment.
I enjoy watching it, just like Three Stooges.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's some classic stuff once again, and something like I always say, when something's great once, it's great forever.
Right. It
Savage and Hogan and everybody and Flair, they're great forever. They're great for even when they're gone from this world. They're still going to be great.
Exactly. They
great
are.
is forever. Once you can hit some level of great. But my parents always raised me to be great. They always wanted me to be able to be great in some way, and they instilled that in me through, probably Judeo-Christian principles and somewhat rigidity, of what you're allowed to do and can't do. And I had to fit a format, and live under the rule of that and parents and how the world was then. And it's changed a lot now since I was little like that and young. But, they raised me to be able to be great in some way. And then if I did happen to become great, but they were always confident that I would be.
Yeah,
They always were. They always were because I played the piano from birth practically. And they knew I had a talent there, something to it more than just banging on keys, And then they helped me. I got lessons and I worked hard. I lifted those weights. Like lifting those weights, baby, I was lifting those keys. So that's kind of how it all goes. But I would tell parents listening, always tell your kids that they can be great. Now, on TV a lot, they would say, yeah, in America, you can be anything you want. That's not true. If everybody could, we'd all be Hulk Hogan or Randy Savage probably.
Yeah.
But that's not true. But you have the chance to become what you dream. And my parents told me it's possible. They didn't belittle me on doing the music, and they helped me and promoted me and paid for the lessons and everything. So I owe a whole lot to them, for helping. Right. And I would encourage parents to always tell their kids they have the ability to be great in some way.
They do. Parents want their kids, just like me, being a parent,
to be better than we are.
Exactly. And
yep,
my daughter, you've seen that. My daughter is just, she is smart, man.
She's great.
This girl is smart. We found out, check this out. We found this out at daycare. During the morning or during the afternoon, they'd give an afternoon snack. When the daycare teachers are taking their snack, they're right next door. She'll eat her snack right there, and then she'll walk right in there where they're at and say hello, and then sit down and want to eat what they're eating.
Kids are brilliant. I mean, they know and they figure everything out. But misunderstand, they have a lot more ways to learn quicker than even your generation or mine or anybody's. They, everything is fast computers and visual, and they're able to pick up a lot of info compressed real quick. Where we had to get the Funk and Wagnalls dictionary gimmick out to look up a foreign country or something. You didn't have any automatic telephone or computer to push a button and go, tell me all about Nairobi. Nope, you had to go to the library and you had to check the Funk and Wagnalls or the Encyclopedia Britannica, had all your information, and then you'd write your report from the information you gathered from the books.
Oh, yeah. Encyclopedia
But today, nobody's reading hardly or anything, and, everything's all a different way to get the information. But it's still fun to read books, I think, and it takes time, and a lot of people don't have the time to sit down and read a book.
Yeah.
But I want them to read my book. I want these people listening to go out and get on Amazon and order my book, My Life in Heaven Town. And I promise you there'll be something enlightening for you in there, no matter who you are or what color you are or how rich or poor you are or who you are. There will be something in there that you can relate to that will give you possibly an inspiration to do something.
Yeah.
And that's my whole goal with the book, is I wanted it to be an inspiration to people that read it. And an enlightening experience, something that people feel good about, that they might be able to realize that they have the capabilities of anything I've ever done and more, really, if you can apply yourself in the right way.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a kind of a motivational speaker type person, but I do it through music and my book,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you pretty much are. I mean, you motivational speaker. I know we've had long talks, and when you were down here and during that time last year, and it seems like yesterday, man. It just feels like yesterday.
No, yeah, it was about a month ago or something.
Yeah, it feels like it was like a month ago, but it was a month and a year ago when you were down here. One of the things you mentioned about you when you were talking about TV, the name Robert Conrad came to mind. Right there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Robert Conrad, and we were talking about him just a little bit right before we went live tonight. What I want to hear a story about Robert Conrad and you meeting Robert Conrad, which is in your book, that My Life in Heaventown. I love to hear.
Well, I can add a little bit to that that's not in the book.
Okay, all right.
That I didn't tell, but I'll tell it now on the Everett Lee show.
All right.
My great friend Everett Lee, he manages to. Everett Lee knows how to squeeze all the goodies out of the person, all the good stories. See, that's your secret talent, my friend, is you're kind and wonderful type of guy, and you're able to get people like me to spill our guts. And so here we go. WrestleMania 2, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. All right. Well, the announcers for that show were, you're going to love this one, those of you that aren't experts and don't remember or haven't looked. It was Elvira. And do you remember who it was?
Damn. You got me right there. It's been
Bobby Heenan.
Bobby Heenan, yes.
Yes.
Bobby Heenan.
And I'm not going to tell. We'll let somebody that's listening out there dial in and tell us who the other announcer was.
Jesse Ventura.
But Robert Conrad was the timekeeper.
Yes.
So we were there early because you come to the Coliseum early, and they have separate. The bad guys have a separate ballroom area, and then the good guys are in a separate ballroom area. Keep everybody separated so they don't fist fight and roll around and wear themselves out before the matches that night. And that still happens some, but that's a whole other story. But anyway, so yes, Robert Conrad was the guest timekeeper, and then Zsa Zsa Gabor was also one of the attendees. I can't remember exactly what her function was.
Yeah.
But some expert out there will dial in and tell us. So Elvira in the back, before I get to the Robert Conrad thing, Elvira, earlier in the day, we were all down there, and they had food for us. And right. Elvira came up to me, and she asked me, how do my boobs look? I didn't know what to say. I thought, is she joking, or is this real, or what am I supposed to do? Help! Somebody throw me a tow line, And I said, they look absolutely fabulous, dear. You're ready to go. And she said, thank you, sir. And she gave me a big hug with the boobs. So.
Oh, that's a plus right there.
That was a big plus I didn't expect. So you never know what you're going to run into in wrestling, but that was a good thing. But she was real sweet and real nice person, too. Cassandra Peterson is her real name.
Yes.
And she still is Elvira, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, okay, so Robert Conrad, he comes in a little bit later of the afternoon. And so I was the first person he walks up to from the back because I was in the back. And they were setting the ring up and getting everything ready.
Uh-huh.
And he came up to me and he said, what dressing room am I supposed to use? Could you tell me? I went, Bob, how are you? Great. I've known him a million years. Well, I've been watching him ever since he did the Wild Wild West. I actually saw him in his original show, Hawaiian Eye, which is big in the late 50s. And I was just a little tyke then, but I remember watching the show with he and Connie Stevens were stars in that.
Uh-huh.
And then he went from that to the Wild Wild West pretty much. That ran up through the earlier 60s and mid-60s. He jumped into the Wild Wild West. Fabulous show. I still watch it regularly. And anyway, so I met Robert right there, Conrad. And I said, yes, sir. Follow me, and I'll show you right where it is, because I knew where the dressing area was. So I showed him. They had his name on his dressing room with a star on it.
Uh-huh.
And I said, there you go. And he went in there. But he had his grandson with him, little blonde-haired boy. He was probably only about 4 years old. And he was carrying him around on his shoulders. So anyway, he went back in there, and then I think he ate in that room himself. They brought him some food privately and whatever. But I ate out there with Vince and all the boys and everything.
Right.
And
right.
So anyway, got to spend the whole Red West was with him. That's his best friend. Red was. Red West, for those who don't know, was Elvis Presley's bodyguard.
Okay.
And he's a film actor, and he's been in some famous movies where he had like a third character type role or whatever. He's really a great actor too. Red is. And anyway, he and Sonny were Elvis's bodyguards. But however, so he was Robert Conrad's best friend, and he was there with his son. So Red West comes up to me and says, I can't remember his son's name, Gary or whatever it was. He said he'd like to meet Jimmy Hart, and you're Jimmy Hart's manager, aren't you? And I went, yeah, I am. I just said it. And he said, okay. So I took the kid into the back, and he got autographs from Jimmy and a whole bunch of the boys and stuff, and brought him back out. And then Robert Conrad came out later. Well, I hung with him all afternoon. He just kind of wandered around the auditorium and looked at everything with that grandson with him. And I stayed right with him, kind of like a liaison or whatever. And he thought that's what I was, really. He didn't know I was just a jabroni that does music for wrestling that was just excited to be with one of my TV all-time heroes, I was marking pretty big right there, but in a professional way.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he was guest timekeeper, but that was a thrill for me because I loved the Wild. I was a teenager when the Wild Wild West came on. I was, but probably 12 or 13 years old.
Right.
And, wow, I just loved Robert Conrad and the show and the whole thing, and still do. And it was just great to meet him, for me. And Hulk liked him too. And he liked Hulk, by the way.
Oh, did he?
He liked Hulk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually wrote a screenplay, DJ 21, where that Robert Conrad was going to play Hulk's father in it.
Oh, okay.
Commander Gene Boulder Sr. and Commander Gene Boulder Jr.
That would have been
Boulder
something,
from
man.
the Boulder brothers. When Hulk started, he was one of the Boulder brothers.
Okay.
But anyway, I got the script. I'm just gonna. One of these days, I'm gonna bump into the right financier at one of these meet and greets, and we're gonna make that film. But poor Robert, of course, he passed away, and it'll have to be somebody else. But somebody like The Rock, and somebody sounds real good.
Yeah. The
Rock can still jump around. He can still jump around.
Oh yeah,
fist fight, whatever.
Yeah, that guy can still jump around and stuff. Third generation wrestler, and it looks like his. Did you hear? It looked like his daughter.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it. The daughter, fourth generation. Yeah.
Yeah, four generations of wrestling, man. Can you?
That's beautiful, man. I mean, isn't that great? I mean, that's like a storybook story,
And she's the good thing about that is, JJ, she's gonna hit the moves like a veteran, because look who her dad is, and then look who trained him, Rocky.
Well, the
Johnson.
DNA is there. Like, I talked to Tully Blanchard when I appeared at Heroes and Legends up in Fort Wayne, Indiana last year.
Yeah.
I said, Tully, Tessa is the greatest thing that wrestling's seen in a lot of decades, really.
Yeah.
He said, she's got the DNA.
Of course.
That's all he said.
Of course. It's just like...
Yeah, he was real modest about it when he said, she's got the DNA. Just like that. Like nothing to it.
Right. Why is it...
He and J.J. Dillon were together. He and J.J. Dillon had a table together. And man, oh man, they never stopped signing, brother. They were the Paul McCartney and John Lennon of that show.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
They never stopped. They never stopped. So I think maybe at one moment they had to stop them so that they could take a bathroom break and come right back. But
and they kept signing.
They never really stopped. Yeah,
jeez,
continual.
That's crazy.
And another one that signed continual was, of course, Jake the Snake, and that's no mystery. And then also the Boogeyman had a line to Timbuktu.
I can believe the Boogeyman. I can believe him.
The Boogeyman. You should have seen him. He looked like he just stepped off a Universal movie set. His makeup and his gimmick and everything, brother. Heck, fire. They were lined up around the whole back of the building to see him. Yes, sir.
That's a surprise.
Yeah. And then Baby Doll. I ran over there and introduced myself to Baby Doll.
Yeah,
Baby Doll said I was the most charming individual, she said. He's a charming man, she said. I hope her husband isn't jealous.
Yeah, you mentioned the Heroes and Legends. I remember that weekend. After you came back from that weekend, you called me. And
I was on cloud nine. With Demolition and Honky and everybody up there. Wow.
Actually,
I'm still jerking.
I would be too, because actually I called you to ask you something, and I said, how was your time up there? And you were like, oh man, Everett, oh man, and just you told me what happened and who you met, and just a great time. You had a really, really great time there. And
all my boys were there that I did the music for.
Yeah.
Practically everybody there, I'd done their music. And, Tommy Rich and was sitting beside Tommy Rich and Earl Hebner. And Earl Hebner never stopped signing also. You would have thought he was one of the Beatles. Really. I'm not exaggerating, ladies and gentlemen listening. No, sir. No, I'm not exaggerating any here. Earl's a superstar, brother. And I said, Earl, I didn't realize you were such a superstar. He said, shh, be quiet, don't tell him I don't realize it either. But Earl's a cool guy. He's really a great guy and a great referee and just great all the way around. But unfortunately, he told me that Dave, he has Alzheimer's, and they're helping to take care of him. He's having a lot of problems.
His brother.
I just always remember them. They've got that southern accent. It's a Maguire. They always call me Maguire. From the way deep south, down there in North Carolina or somewhere. I think they're actually from Virginia.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Some expert out there can dial in and tell us. But, man, I tell you what, the Hebners, you can't find any better people or anything. And, they were the Carnies. They worked the circus before they got involved in the wrestling business.
I didn't know that. I remember
they're
both of
tough
them.
Guys. These tough guys. See, let me tell you something. Yes, Dave and Earl they're not real tall guys, but yes, let me tell you, you would be in trouble if you tried to fist fight those guys in a dark alley. You'd come out hurting.
I can believe
those guys are tough. They are tough, and they got tough from setting up those big circus tents and stuff, and hammering all that stuff in and all that physical work. And those guys were tough and wiry. That's helped them to be great referees also.
I can believe it. I definitely can believe that, man. Remember
and
the
by the
story?
way, when they threw Earl out into the audience, they missed where they were trying to throw him in all the excitement. He wound up dislocating his shoulder. He cracked his a rib, and he dislocated his leg, I believe. He was crippled after that show he told me, for about almost a year.
Now, is that the same one? The same one I was just about to mention was where
the evil Hebners.
Yes, the
evil Hebners.
Yeah, Hogan, because Hogan's reaction was priceless, man. When I saw that, and he picked him up, he threw him, he launched his ass. I was standing between the ring and the rail. I was in the corner on right outside the camera angle, where I wasn't in the way. Yeah,
and I was crouched down though. I didn't stand. I was crouched, but I was right there. And golly, when they picked him up and sailed him out there, I thought, oh my God, they didn't throw him out in the front row. They overthrew him. That's what hurt him. They threw him back to about the fourth row.
Damn, that was Hogan that did that, right? If I remember, that was Hogan.
Yeah, but
Hogan
it had some help too. Some other ones were kind of holding his feet. There, if I remember, I think there was two people that did it. Hogan and another one.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying.
You have to look at it. Somebody had to look at that again. I don't. But I just remember watching him sailing through the air like Superman.
Yeah.
And hitting about the third row, fourth row out there.
Yeah,
And I went, dang, man, this guy's got to be hurt. And they carried him out, but he was hurt severely from that.
Yeah, he flew, man. That guy just freaking Earl flew. He just,
yes, he did.
He was. I remember that. I remember Hogan's face and the announcing. It was just a great moment. There's two of them. I think it was Gorilla or Jesse. There's two of them.
Yeah.
And then Heenan was like, Heenan is like, Hogan sand double. just something crazy like that. And then Hogan,
one of the greatest angles ever in wrestling, man. I mean, that was fabulous stuff.
No one expected
brother.
it.
And
the crowd was priceless with the reaction. The crowd
was ballistic. Yeah. I mean, the only crowd louder was at the Silver Dome when Hulk slammed Andre.
Or the Superdome, like Hogan said at 30.
Superdome.
That was great. He still
Superdome.
jokes about that now. I mean, even at the WrestleManias. When he was there at last year's WrestleMania, when he came out at the beginning with Alexa Bliss, he said, brothers, it's great to be out here at the Superdome. And they started booing. He said, I mean, MetLife Stadium. He did that up. He jokes. He takes a joke at. He jabs himself with it now. Which
they tried to knock it down and it didn't go down. He said, "It's just like me." Hogan said. He said, "You can't knock down. It's hard to knock us down." The first attempt failed, and they tried to level it. Yeah, he made a joke out of that. But no, I'll never forget that. That was, again, I was crouched in the corner and. Unbelievable, just unbelievable stuff. And I sat there with my own eyes and watched it just from a few feet away,
Jeez. Yeah, I
was right under it. If I was any closer, I would have been right in it with them, really.
Damn.
Only a matter of feet, only a matter of about 10 feet, or I would have been in the melee with them. I was only that far away, right in the corner.
That's crazy.
On the inside.
That's crazy. Now, one thing I got to ask you about is if this is in the book or not. When you went over to England for SummerSlam 1990 SummerSlam, or I think it was 92, 91, 92 SummerSlam. When 91, okay. And the main event for that was Bret Hart versus Davey Boy Smith in an Iron Man match for the Intercontinental Championship.
Family versus family match.
Yeah. Great main event, great time. Now, how was it being over there in England and being a part of this event by just seeing history, in the world of wrestling being made there with family?
Well, it was a fabulous spectacle. I mean, if you remember, it took them about 10 minutes to get to the ring. It's so far of a distance, Wembley.
Yeah.
It holds 119,000 people.
Right.
So, there was no way to run to the ring. Not even the rockers, their 100-mile-an-hour run to the rings, not even the rockers could run from the curtain to the ring at Wembley. Sorry.
What about
not even they would be able to? It would take them, even the rockers, it would take them probably at least 3 minutes to run to the ring at their speed.
Damn.
It's so far away. Unbelievable. Never saw anything like it. And then I forget, who was it that rode out there on a motorcycle?
Damn.
Who was that?
I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember. Was it Jesse Ventura?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was Jesse.
Yeah, he rode to the ring on a Harley.
Yeah.
And it's you talk about a spectacle, brother. This was it, and the thing that amazed me, and I think I had it in the book. I can't remember, but I was everywhere. I had all access. I sat with Vince and Pat Patterson and them in the back and watched on the monitors a lot of it, and then I went out, and walked out on the walkways and stood in between the exits and watched. And then I actually went all the way or halfway around and went up into the stands and sat with the people And I went up there and sat, and I looked to my left, and the people that were to the left of me barely had shoes on their feet, and they didn't have any teeth, and you could tell they were really impoverished people, but yet they'd saved their money and whatever to come to the event, which is remarkable. Wow. And then on my right-hand side, these two women were sitting wearing mink coats and wearing diamond rings.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, I looked at that, and I looked at, at that on left and right like that, and I looked at the audience and the pops and everything, and then the music hit. And see, the music hit before anything hit the curtain. Since the music hit, the people were leaping. Before even the talent came out, the music would hit, and then maybe like 5 or 10 seconds later, the talent would come through the curtain.
Yeah.
And then they had, if you remember, they had like golf carts that they would get in, and they drove them to the ring with the golf carts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so far. But I realized right then, wow, that this spectacle of wrestling and this music and this type of entertainment is way bigger than what I ever have realized till this moment, till I've sat here and looked at all walks of life coming to this event, I still don't know exactly what to say. I'm completely blown away after all these years, these decades, by that. And wow, to be able to be a part of that is just a miracle. And I loved it because I saw how that people were happy. I thought, gosh, this is the coolest thing to make 110,000 people happy like this. What a dream come true, man.
I would say
it's a dream come true.
I'd say that'd be like one of the greatest feelings right there. And even hearing the themes you and Jimmy Hart did come over the PA right there, and
yeah. And the best of sound system that is so big that they have they have delay on the speakers because there's different speakers at different distances from ringside all the way back to the back of the Coliseum, and
right.
The sound system is very sophisticated, and so there's not an echo of sound, a refraction of it bouncing off the back. By the time it got to the back Coliseum, it's going to be about 2 seconds late. You understand? So they have staggered speakers, so many feet all the way back to the edge of the beginning of the upper tier of the Coliseum. And that's so that the sound, for no matter where you're sitting, stays in sync. It isn't bouncing around like a big echo, like a ping pong, Very sophisticated. People don't think about these things, so they just go and watch what you see. But, I understand and know about all these things that are involved in putting on these programs. And it's extremely sophisticated back then. There wasn't any digital stuff much yet then in 91. It's mostly analog PA and so forth. But, man, oh, man, it sounded dynamite. I mean, really great. And that was really a thrill, yeah. Really a thrill. Really appreciate it, and I'd like to thank everybody that has enjoyed all this music that we've done. And, I'm glad that I was able to take my gift and share it with people, and entertain people and let them have fun.
Mm-hmm.
I like for everybody to have fun. Jimmy Hart, one thing about him, he always asks you, if you're anywhere with him or an outing with a family or anything, he says, Maguire, are you having fun? Jimmy, do I look like I'm not having fun? I'd ask him. No, you don't look like you're not. I'm just wondering, are you having fun? You okay? Do you need anything? Need something to drink? Do you need this? And blah, blah, blah. Jimmy's always concerned with everybody else's welfare. He's
right.
When he's with other people, as you noticed, he's interested in your welfare, whether you're a fan or a friend or even a foe. He's polite to everybody.
He is. He's a great guy. He is a great guy. When he had his place here in Daytona, and I'd go out there to hang out to watch wrestling.
Yeah, you were semi-regular over there. You were. I figured any time you were going to be on the wall in the Hall of
Fame. I'm surprised he didn't.
You and Tommy.
Yeah.
You and Tommy. I mean, y'all were. I thought y'all had jobs working for Jimmy.
I got to tell you a couple funny stories that happened there. That this was crazy because it added up and to what you mentioned to me on something I will not mention on air, and but I will tell you a couple funny stories too that happened there that I can tell. But what we talked about and stuff, I won't mention that on air. But that's between you and me, and the as my father used to say, that's between you and me and that fence post over there. So
yeah, boy, fence post, yes, sir. I understand.
I will say this though. There was a time where when we first started, when we heard about Jimmy having his place up there in Daytona, and me, Tommy, and another friend, Tony, and you've seen Tony because anyone who sees Tony, the first thing they say is that Jake Roberts? He looks like Jake Roberts. That's just Tony, man. So we were up there one night, and we were hanging out, and I believe we were watching some kind of sporting thing. He had like 5 or 6 TVs with sports on it, and then I think on one of them he would have like Monday Night Raw or SmackDown on at the time. And we were just sitting by Jimmy, hanging out, talking and stuff. Jimmy got up to take care of stuff behind the bar. So this one couple came in, and it was amazing to see people come in and just kind of mark out, and some people didn't mark out because there's Jimmy Hart. And then this one lady came in with her husband, and I guess she was hitting the bottle someplace else before she came down to Jimmy's. So she got Jimmy's there, and she started drinking more to her to what she's had before. So she comes over, and she bought one of her Jimmy Hart shirts. Mm-hmm. She went over there, and she had him sign it, and he's sitting there. He signed it and stuff. And this is how messed up she was. When Jimmy got up and left, she come back over, and she's sitting there she was out of it. This gal was plastered. I'm surprised her husband didn't say, you know what, honey, we're getting out of here. Tommy's sitting there, I'm sitting there, and Tony's sitting there. She looks over, and she looks at Tony, and she swore she thought that was Jimmy, and she said, "Thank you so much, Jimmy, for inviting me."
Oh no.
Tony looked at me, we looked at Tommy and stuff, and Tony goes, "Yeah, no problem, man. No problem." She's sitting there like this, just all. I mean, she's plastered. She looks over at Tommy and says, "Who are you?" And Tommy goes, "I'm Jimmy's bodyguard." And he goes, and she turns and she looks at me and she said, "Well, who's him?" And I look at Tommy. Tommy looked at me, and Tommy goes, "That's my bodyguard."
Yep. Unbelievable. Well, these things happen, and, people have a little too much to drink. Everything looks great and sounds $1 million, Yeah. Y'all sound great. Y'all are great. Well, you know what? We haven't played for 20 minutes. Well, you're sounding great. And we're not even playing, It's still ringing in their ears.
Yeah.
So, no, we encountered a lot of that in the Gentrys. I never forget we were playing one place, and it snowed. We played up in, again, Huntington, West Virginia. Here we go again. Really super nice hotel, though, a European-style hotel, 8-story hotel, real nice, but a big snowstorm came in, a big blitz. And so the first night that we played, we had a gig at the hotel there. We were in the ballroom of the hotel featured, Gentrys. And it snowed out, and only one guy made it up there. There's maybe 3 people in the audience that night because nobody could get there. The roads are completely like 2 feet deep of snow, and he couldn't make it, couldn't get out.
Right.
So,
right.
But we played anyway. We were contract too, so we went ahead and played for the staff and whoever, which is kind of fun. And I guess we probably had 40 people in there or whatever. But this one guy sat up front, and he was plastered like that. and we kept playing, and every time we'd end a song, bump, and end a song, he'd holler, "Hey, y'all, play Sleigh Ride. Play Sleigh Ride," he says. And we ignored him for quite a while, but then he got worse and worse and worse. And he's a big old guy, looked like a wrestler, like he could do some damage. And they had a security guard there, and the security guard was getting antsy. He was getting closer to him, ready to pull a gun on him or something, and so finally the guy said, "Play Sleigh Ride." So we went, okay. And we played Sleigh Ride, and he went, no, I don't mean that sleigh ride. I mean that other sleigh ride. And so we went, oh, yeah, we know what he wants. We went, "Come on and take a sleigh ride." By Edgar Winter, Free Ride.
Yeah.
And we sang Sleigh Ride on. And this old boy was in heaven. All of a sudden, he was compliant, and he was so touched and lovable. I mean, it was unbelievable. Complete change in his personality. And so we did Free Ride by Edgar Winter. We sang "Come On and Take It" instead of a free ride. We sang "Come On and Take a Sleigh Ride." The guy wound up giving us $100 tip. That's the kicker of the story.
Oh, no way he did.
Yeah. This guy, you didn't think he might have a dang dime on him, and the guy put $100 bill in a tip thing out there.
Damn. That's great, man.
Yeah, we were hired on a contract, but we had a tip jar because what we did is we took most of the tip. We took half the tips and divided it between the servers and gave them an extra boost.
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
really more. It's more for them than us. We were already making good money, but
yeah,
and if you remember, most bars and stuff always had a tip jar, no matter who's playing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the old boy put $100 bill in there, and we like to died. I mean, wow. We asked him, "You want to hear it again?" And we played it again for him. It's like, "Come on, take a sleigh ride."
You didn't do it like you didn't end up sitting there like, remember the Blues Brothers? Remember that first gig they played at that country western bar? The only song they played was Rawhide.
Yeah, the good old boys. Well, first they started with some other stuff, and they threw the bottles and everything, and then they broke into Rawhide, and they really threw the bottles because they loved them.
Yeah. Remember that?
The good old boys. Remember, they pretended to be the good old boys, and then they left, and the good old boys showed up, and the guy said, "It's Bob's Country Bunker. I've been in it. It's an attraction on the Universal tour, and I used to take my friends that came to Hollywood to visit me out on the tour, and they took you right to the bunker. And you could go down inside it and everything. It was cool."
Oh, nice.
But
nice.
Bob's Country Bunker. But anyway, so then the good old boys show up in their cowboy outfits, and this guy says, who y'all? He says, "Well, we're the good old boys." "The good old boys? Well, they were just here." "What?" And then remember they chased them in that Winnebago, and they flipped it.
Yeah.
They're trying to go around a curve about 100 miles an hour, and it flipped out, and all the good old boys are sprawled on the highway. That's a really great movie. That was made while I was living out in Hollywood. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
sure.
one of my favorite movies, and someone could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but it still holds to record. I believe I told this to you before. I told someone this a while back ago, and they said, I said, yeah, it does. It still holds the record in movie history for the biggest car crashes, or the most car crashes in cinematic history. It still holds that record after all these years.
Yeah.
I think the second one, Blues Brothers 2000, tried to do it, and it didn't justify it. The first one still holds that record, man.
If you remember, they drove them over the top of each other like at about 60 miles an hour. They weren't doing 25 miles an hour. They were flying.
Yeah.
Launching. Yeah. They were launching over one another, crashing up. And
that's nuts. That's nuts, like sending those cars and stuff, though. But it made up, because I didn't find out till years later when I got older that they, for one car stunt or scene or something, they would use about like 3 or 4 different type models or different, same car, but 4 or 5 of the same models just for the shoot a scene. They would.
Jim Garner was a top Hollywood stuntman driver to start with, And they call that spin around thing they call it doing a Rockford. He invented that. And they had a stunt driver they hired for the Rockford Files, and he couldn't do what Garner could do. So they got rid of him. Of course, they were worried about the risk of him flipping or killing himself, but man, he was dynamite. And he always used, for those technophobes out there, Jim Garner said he always wanted the Firebird because the Firebird has almost 50-50 balance. It's balanced closer to 50 front, 50 rear balancing than the Chevy 350. The engine sits back on the frame a little closer to the driver's compartment. So that gives it closer to a 50-50 ratio of weight front to rear. And that's perfect for what you need for spinning them and sliding them out and whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense right there. That makes sense because it actually you can actually do what you need to do with them. That's the thing, and he could do it. He was a fabulous stunt driver, Jim Garner. So they got rid of the stunt driver. No good. They got rid of him. He couldn't do what Garner could do. They tried. The best person they could come up with in the industry couldn't equal him. So he did his own driving in the Rockford Files. So all those stunts that you see he's behind the wheel. Okay. You met Jim Gardner.
Yeah, I worked with him at Glen Sound in Hollywood. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that. If
Yeah. Well, Jim Garner is a great guy. He was injured in the World War II and excuse me, not World War II, but I guess it was maybe the Korean War, whatever was after that. But he was injured.
Korea?
And he, a shrapnel caught the side of his jaw underneath, and he got an honorable discharge.
Okay.
So he went into, decided to go into stunt work, in Hollywood.
Right.
And whatever. But really a great person, and he was doing Missioner's Space Epic. It was on, I think, HBO I can't remember exactly. It was a mini-series thing, and it was about the space program and the astronauts and stuff and everything. And he was the lead character. But really a great guy, really a big guy. Like he's about the same height as Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
Big fella, tall, real tall. And but I really enjoyed working with him because the Rockford Files and everything. I'd watch them a lot and all that. And my mom and dad liked the movie Tank that he was in with Sally Field.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And he was just a great person and really gracious person and no big-headed superstar. Even though he was a superstar of film and television both, he never had that kind of air about him. He was just like talking to regular guys out here at the racetrack or something, down there at the 500, he's like one of those guys that works the pits or something.
Yeah. That's
real nice guy.
That's awesome. Just it was World War I, World War II, and Korea, and then Vietnam. Yeah. He was part of that Korean thing. I remember when they had the draft going for the Vietnam War, and I went down and pre-registered with the Air Force, and they were going to put me in charge of the Air Force band. Really?
Because I could read music and everything and understood about orchestra and stuff. And so I was ready to go, but then my number came up, and it was about 300, so no way they were ever going to take me. And they couldn't take me anyway because I have a bad back, and I was born with it, and, they wouldn't have taken me anyway.
Yeah. I had a friend who wanted to join the military so bad that they went in and they went to join the military, and they could not. They turned him down, and he was so disappointed, devastated, and he threw a fit about it. This is around towards the end of high school, and he was so upset about it. And he's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. I wanted to join the military. I wanted to and it was like, well, why did they not take you? He said because he was flat-footed.
Yeah, my brother Walter, my elder brother Walter Maguire, he's flat-footed, and that classification is called 4F. He was a 4F, and the only way that people like he or I would see any kind of service in a world catastrophe or something is they might. Of course, I'm retirement age now, but if I was below retirement age, the only things that we would have done, we would have worked in an office or something. Had a desk job.
Right. It was funny because
never seen the front.
Never see the front line. Never see no action.
No.
Which some people that's great, but you got other ones out there that just they wanted all that action, man, just on the front line. They did.
Yeah, they love all that. Yeah, they do. Well, everybody in my family was in military except for now my brother Walter with the flat feet though. He was in ROTC in college, But I'm the only one of all our my father and my two brothers, my uncles and everybody, and both sides of the family, my mother's side and then my dad's side were all military people. I was the only non-military person in our family.
Wow. Yeah. I almost joined the military right around my senior year of high school. My senior year of high school.
Yeah, that's when it is. Yeah, that's when they were hitting on me. They came to the school and convinced me to come down there and sign up,
Yeah. The last year of high school, it seems like every branch of the military, every college wanted you. I went on this one college tour to the college, check out the college, everything's great stuff. They threw papers in front of you here. It's like, here, sign up. You're going to come to this college. I'm like, everyone was like, okay, start signing the papers. I look at these papers and I look and I was like, I'm going to take these home. They were like devastated. These guys were devastated. They got pissed at me, JJ. They said, you just need to sign these papers. I said, I'm going to take these home and let my parents look at them, and I just want to make sure no, you need to sign them. I said, I'm not signing nothing. I'm not joining college.
They pulled up here, too, and then they worked on me real hard after my number even came up low. They said, well, you can still enlist, and I said, well, I've got a bad back, and I don't think, he said, no, if you're going to lead the band, they can work it out.
Yeah. They
were desperate for me to join. Pardon me.
Yeah, it was bad because these guys they at the college here they were so pissed that I would not sign the papers that I was going to come join the college. I said, well, I'm going to take this in consideration and I'm going to bring this stuff home and then I'm going to go over it with my parents. They did not want to hear that. There. They wanted to grab my hand and make me sign the damn paper. I said, I'm not signing. Yeah. They got mad at me because I said, and even the guidance counselors were like, Denver, you can't say that. I said, I ain't signing shit. Mm-hmm. I told them that.
No, that was smart. Don't ever sign anything.
We got
without
back.
knowing really that, looking at it or having a lawyer look at it or something.
Yeah, they weren't going to sign up. They wanted to sign all this information out. They were basically bending my hand to say, you're going to come to our college. And I said, I'm looking at other colleges. There's other colleges out here besides you. And that's when they tried to bend my hand. And I said, I ain't signing shit. Like, wait till you get back to school. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll go. You take me to the principal's office. I'll tell him what happened. So we got back to school. And as soon as we got off the bus, it was like 3 o'clock. My bus that I drove at the time before I got my license came up. I jumped off that bus and I ran. I got back on my bus. They were like, wait. Took off. The next day, they didn't say nothing. They didn't say nothing to me. I come back to school, they didn't say nothing. But I had every branch of the military come in. I almost joined the Navy. The Navy, and that didn't work out. The Marines, I said to myself, I was like, no, don't want the Marines. The Army, I was 50-50 on. Did someone talk to me about the Navy? And then I almost was about to join the Navy, but that didn't work out. But then at the last minute, someone said, you need to join the Air Force. I said, I don't like flying. And they said, you don't have to fly. I said, no, I don't like flying. And they said, well, you're on aircraft carriers out in the middle of the ocean. I'm like, no. And not my thing. And it's like, well, you join the Navy, you're going to be underwater in a submarine. And I was like, yeah, because I was just being a smart ass to my friends. I said, yeah. I said, I wouldn't mind being in a submarine away from everybody, because I was at that time, I was like, just wanted to just not be around people, antisocial. So I threw the antisocial thing out and said, yeah, good. I'm away from everybody. I don't have to see no one except the people that's there with me. But that didn't work out, and I never did pursue it. I had to go to summer school to finish high school. And by that time, I started working and got into the workforce, and I just never did pursue it. I never did do it. Never did.
Well, we do different things. And we do one thing, and then we do something else, and that's all part of it. But,
yeah.
Yeah, I always heard a lot of military stories because all my family, my grandfather, Dr. John D. Maguire, was a field surgeon in World War One, and I had this mid pin that he wore on his hat, and I still have that. I've kept that. Occasionally, I put it on a hat and wear it, and some people come up to me and know what that is.
Nice.
It says U.S. on it, U.S., and it's in circles. It's all in brass. But anyway, but. So I don't know, but it all goes on, and I'm sorry that we had three great stars pass away this week. Kirk Douglas and Orson Bean and Robert Conrad, in a unique way, and brought a whole lot to entertainment. And really, you talk about entertaining people. Those three guys right there were great entertainers. Orson was a fabulous comedian and brilliant writer as well. Of course, when enough said about Kirk Douglas, you just mentioned that name, it's like saying Coca-Cola. Those are all monikers. And, and Robert Conrad wrote the book on action TV stuff, arts, and before Bruce Lee ever appeared or anything. And he brought a lot of unusual elements to the character. He was a professional flamenco dancer, by the way, and from Spain and everything. And so he incorporated that into his outfit that he wore in the Wild West. He told the wardrobe people that he wanted to look like a flamenco dancer, the tight pants and the waistcut vest jacket, and then the bolero tie and all that in the hat. And it was a great image, and great actor and action actor and great actor. Wound up when he played the G. Gordon Liddy story on an ABC movie. Wow, he looked just like G. Gordon Liddy, and you could see what his skills were. He was kind of one-dimensional in Wild Wild West, but he was supposed to be. But when he played G. Gordon Liddy, he really opened the doors up and blew the roof off on that one. I advise people to stream that or take a look at that movie. He did a fabulous job in that. And then, of course, Baba Black Sheep, that was popular. Mm-hmm. He said he liked that series more than the Wild Wild West and all the other series he had done. He liked the Black Sheep series. Okay. But anyway, we lost, point being made, we lost three really icons right there last week.
We did.
Sure
it's just the beginning of the year. It just seems like at the beginning of every year, you lose one, and then you lose another, and then you lose another. They come in three. You ever heard the old saying? It comes in three, and then a baby's born. So be on the lookout on who's going to be having a baby.
Right.
So that's all.
Never know.
You never know. But
never know. But well, I hope people will get my book, and I promise you that you'll have a fun read on it. And it's a pretty quick read. It isn't going to take you 3 or 4 days to read the book. You can read the book probably in a whole afternoon and an evening if you desire. And from what I've been told and what I thought reading the book, I read the book and I think it's talking about somebody I don't know that I've just first read about, even though it's me. The way John Cosper, the author, put it all, the facts and everything together is just an unbelievable job, fabulous. And like I say, I think there's some enlightenment in there for everybody, and you'll get a kick out of it. And I think it'll be something enjoyable for everybody I've talked to. Really enjoyed reading it. They tell me that they had a good time reading the book, and that's what I wanted people to do: have a good time.
Exactly, and if you haven't picked
My
it up,
Life in Heaven Town,
John, you and John Cosper, they you both wrote it there, and
he just finished Tracy Smothers' book, by the way.
Okay.
And that's going to be available, and he was interviewing. I did some show with Tracy where I did a program where I actually argued with him, and had a pretty big spot and everything, and one of the independent shows, and that was a dream come true for me. I'd like to thank Dennis Spradlin on that one. He was the booker for that program, and it was real nice of him to include me in a angle with the great Tracy Smothers, and I was very thrilled about that. And I realized after I did that I didn't think there was going to be much more that I could do that would top that.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons that I left KZW is because I wanted to promote my book and my music and all that. But I really appreciate the chance to work with the legendary Tracy Smothers. And the beauty about Tracy is many beauties, but he really has enjoyed sharing his wealth of experience with the newcomers and semi-pros and, a lot of independent people, they're just getting going and learning the craft and whatever. He's really been fabulous on helping those people and enlightening them and helping them with their careers and so forth. And I just was really appreciative to work with Tracy. But Tracy's not in good health. He's got cancer, and he's taking treatments and whatever, but still making appearances. But I really wish him well, and I hope that he can beat it. And if anybody could, I think Tracy Smothers would be the guy that could.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But I just wanted to shout that out there of how I enjoyed working with Tracy, and he's a wonderful individual and a legendary wrestler as well.
He is. He's a great talent, and I remember that angle there that you worked there in KZW, and that's something that's basically would be on that you can check off your bucket list right there, JJ. That you got to work.
Yeah,
with
that's what
Tracy
I thought.
Smothers.
I thought, wow, I'm getting to do that. I got to do stuff with Hulk Hogan, and then I got to do stuff with Tracy Smothers, and got to do some stuff with Honky Tonk Man and Demolition and Nasty Boys, and I've been fortunate to be able to do a lot of different things with a lot of different talents, and I sure do appreciate it, and I'm glad that I could offer something to it. So that's my story, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like that. Now, talking about appearances and stuff and going and promoting your book, you have some upcoming appearances here coming up here, and I know you sent me a text today about one appearance though, but here next month on around the same actually on the same date as the Podcast C Network's 2-year show. I know you're not going to be able to make it this year though, but we'll be pouring a tall glass and toasting you and wishing you were there this year for the 2-year show though. But where are you going to be at March 7th next month? Where are you going to be at?
March the 7th, I'm supposed to be at the big event in New York City, and I haven't got the final call back on that just yet. But as it stands, I'm supposed to be there, but it isn't confirmed completely. But either way, whether I'm there or not, it's going to be one of the greatest shows because they're going to have Undertaker and Bret Hart, and Jimmy Hart's going to be there, and everybody that's anybody. And I'm the only person that may not be there, but I don't know yet. I'm waiting to confirm that. But so that's 50-50-ish right now. But now in March or in on March the 26th, I'm going to be on a podcast program called Wrestling the Future with Angelo DeCipio. And I'm going to be on with Conway Twitty's daughter on that show. Conway Twitty's daughter is a prolific songwriter herself and whatever. And it's going to be a songwriter show, and we're going to be talk about songwriting and so on. And then I'm going to be back at a later date, probably a month and a half or so later. I'm going to be on a show on the Wrestling the Future podcast with J.J. Dillon. It's going to be the two JJs.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that, man. You have a lot of great things going on, and as always, I am so happy that you called in tonight to take time out and just talk and just come on the show and just your presence. I love having your presence on this show here, and just looking at the live stream here tonight, because I'm live streaming live on twitch.tv/podcasting network, and I'm also streaming on my Facebook page, The Everett Lee Show. A lot of comments in the chat on from Facebook there, and a lot of views on Twitch, which I want to thank. Even on Facebook Live, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight here on the Everett Lee Show, as always, with J.J. Maguire. This makes your third appearance, man. You right now are tied with a couple of my other guests for the most appearance here on this show. If I get you back on again, you will beat them.
I'm just glad to be on. I enjoy telling the stories and sharing, the experiences with people, because a lot of people wonder about a lot of these things, and I enjoy talking about it. It's fun to talk about, and I'm just appreciative that people even care and want to hear about it. I really do, and I want to thank everybody for listening to our wrestling themes through the years, 114 themes that I wrote, and with Jimmy Hart co-producing, and I just want to thank everybody for making a dream come true for me as well. Thank you all very much, and you too, Everett Lee.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. We all love you. We all love you. And one thing that we all do love is for the fact that on March 7th, we're going to have the 2-year anniversary show, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, with our hometown throwdown with Seven Kingdoms on March 7th.
Yes, sir. Seven Kingdoms.
Saturday,
yes.
March 7th. And you're in the area, please stop by and say hello to the Podcast Scene Network crew.
And have that grilled cheese sandwich at City Tap Room.
It's excellent. It's excellent.
It's a beauty. It's an absolute beauty. You go, well, what can be great about a cheese sandwich? Go to City Tap Room and you'll find out.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jim over there at City Tap Room, he's the man. He not only can, when they say Jim can really cook, he really can cook.
He can. Yeah,
Yes, sir. Gourmet cooking, brother. I tell you what, for grilled food, this is gourmet time.
Exactly, it is. Yep. And you can taste it. J.J. Maguire approval. So head over to the City Limits Tap Room on Saturday, March 7th for the Seven Kingdoms Hometown Throwdown, and say hello to the Podcast City Network crew as we celebrate our 2-year anniversary of being the network. And speaking of networks, you can find more podcasts over on podcastc.net, your top source for independent podcasting. Follow them on Facebook, Podcast City Network. Send them a tweet over on Twitter at Podcast City Net, and subscribe to their YouTube channel, Podcast City Network, and right here on twitch.tv/Podcast City Network. Give a follow and a like for notifications when Podcast City Network goes live on Twitch. More of the Everett Lee Show on social media over on Facebook, the Everett Lee Show. Twitter, send me a tweet over on Twitter at the Everett _Lee. Follow me on Instagram, Everett Lee Show, and audio podcast from this podcast and previous release podcast. Head over to the YouTube channel of Everett Lee Show. Stitcher Radio, download that app, give a 5-star rating and a review. iTunes, Apple Podcast, give a 5-star rating and a review. And over on podbeam.com, right there, everettleeshow.podbeam.com. Be sure to download the Podbeam app to your phone. I did, and I have it on my phone, and you can find my podcast on there, Everett Lee Show, and a lot more podcasts on the Podbeam app. Please download that and follow the Everett Lee Show and subscribe and get notifications when new episodes come out. Look for, in the future, bonus content. Be sure to follow the bonus content that will be coming out on Podbeam, on everettleeshow.podbeam.com. So be sure to do that. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the Everett Lee Show podcast for this Tuesday night here, ladies and gentlemen. I am out of here. I want to thank my guest, Hurricane J.J Maguire, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in and viewing tonight. Everett Lee Show, have a great night, and we'll see you again next week for another episode. Peace.